Welcome to Toni Told Me, the cozy corner of the internet for the real talk and real tea with me, your big sis, Toni Tone. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you're listening. Well, actually, no, YouTube. Subscribe on YouTube. But please follow the podcast wherever you're listening to this, whether it's Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music. And please leave us a review. We'd love to know what you think. As always, if you're on social media, the @ is @ToniToldMePod. We would love if you could follow us, interact with us, leave comments, like, share, all that good stuff. This episode is one I'm really excited for. It's an episode dedicated to my new book, which is coming out. It's available to pre-order now. It's called No Fucks Given, the Zero Accountability Guide to Getting Over a Boy. I'm going to talk about what birthed this book. It's all about heartbreak, recovering from heartbreak, healing from heartbreak. And I also want to give you guys, my podcast listeners, a sneak preview. I'm going to do a little reading for you guys in Sisterhood Spotlight. But before we get into that, we obviously have our dilemmas, Tea Time with Toni. Let me give you an update on my life first, though. How's life been? Torturous, to say the least. Torturous, to say the least. I am not one of these bridal season bride. Oh my God, my bridal season, my bridal era. Honestly, this sounds so crass, but fuck this era. This whole bridal era thing, I actually hate it. I hate it with a passion. The other day, I cried to Taiwo. I literally broke down in tears about just the amount of work, the amount of stress I'm under, the amount of admin required. I just want to get my life back. I can't wait to get married, to obviously have my husband, but to also get my life back. I'm really stressed, guys, really, really stressed. It's been a painful process, but we're nearly there. Not long to go. And I think it's been helpful for me to just admit the truth, the reality that I am stressed. I'm not enjoying the process. I'm over it. And I know I've said that in few words before. I've alluded to that before, but that's the reality. I think some women really flourish during the season. Some women and men really flourish during the season. But I don't think we acknowledge how stressful planning weddings, events, period, can be, let alone planning two. Because obviously I have my traditional Nigerian wedding and my black tie wedding. And it's been insane, but we're close to the finish line and I can't wait to cross that line. And next, producer Annisha and I, as always, the beautiful producer Annisha is in the studio. We are going to answer some of your juicy dilemmas in Tea Time with Toni. Producer Annisha, dilemma number 1, please.
So our first dilemma says, "Hi ladies, I have a question for the pod regarding long distance relationships.
Okay.
I live in the UK and he lives in Canada. We met in New York when we were both visiting earlier this year in March, and we've been speaking ever since. I'm 29 and he's 32, and we were both child-free and both live alone. I have a good job and I'm financially stable enough to entertain a long-distance relationship. He has planned to come to the UK twice since March and it's never come to fruition. He has mentioned cost is a factor and asked if I would contribute towards anything for his visit or if he could come to stay at my place. My question is, how do you navigate logistics and finances in a long-distance relationship in the first stages? I haven't seen him since March and I don't want him to stay at my place because I live alone. I would prefer if he would pay for his flights and accommodation and I would consider paying for some activities whilst he was here. Am I being too strict and not considerate? I want him to show me his commitment. I'm open to going to visit him and paying, and he has offered for me to stay at his place when I visit and he will take care of the rest. The relationship has hit the rocks as he wants me to accommodate him the way he could if I visited Canada, but I want him to come and visit without this pressure to show that he is really interested in me. I reassured him that there will come a time when I will invite him to stay with me, but for now I want to maintain that boundary. I really like him, but I want to be comfortable. Is money really stopping him, or is he just trying to use me? Should I plan to meet him halfway instead? How did the first meeting go with you and your fiancé? Did he stay with you? Did you ask to contribute or did you offer? I still want him to court me as if we lived in the same city outside of planning. He has been consistent with his communication, messages and FaceTimes me every day. He tells me that he wants to be with me, but from a romantic standpoint, he hasn't planned a virtual date or done anything romantic virtually, although I have mentioned this to him.
Okay. Long distance relationships. Yeah, they're not easy. there's the distance to tackle, but also the financial burden of them, right? That it's not easy at all. Financially, it's very draining. When Taiwan and I think about how much we spent in the first year of dating, oh my God, first 2 years, could have put pause on a house. That's how much we probably spent visiting each other, right? So I understand why finances has come up and it's a touchy subject. My personal opinion is, might be a bit of a double standard here. Might be a bit of a double standard. I'm going to raise my hands up and I'm going to say, I'm sorry, I have this double standard. I personally think that as a man, he should go out of his way to display intentionality, right? And for that reason, I believe he should pay for his own flight if it's his first time visiting you. And I also believe he should pay for his own accommodation, partially because of safety too. Because long distance is all good and well, like getting to know someone personally over the phone. But if you don't feel comfortable, and this is about individuals, because the first time my partner came, I stayed with him, but he didn't stay with me, if that makes sense. I had an apartment in London, but he got his own hotel. We had an amazing date, and I was like, okay, I might want to stay over because it was so amazing. I might want to just carry this through, right? Stay over. I want to wake up to you, right? So I wanted to stay with him because I felt like, yeah, this is it for me. I'm locked in. But if I had any hesitation, I would not have stayed, and I would have had the freedom to make that decision because he didn't bank on my accommodation being the accommodation he'll use. So I personally think he should have his own accommodation to give you the freedom of choice because you're hesitant, and you're allowed to be hesitant if you are. And I also think, yeah, he should pay for his flight. I think generally as women, we pour into relationships, right? And I think if you're dating a guy, paying for some of his flight and housing him when he's trying to see you, like, show me that you're serious about seeing me. I think he should cover his costs. I don't think you're being extra. Again, when my fiance came to visit me, he booked his own flight, booked a hotel in London, despite me living in London at the time. He sorted himself out because he wanted to show me that, look, it's not that I'm trying to like hook up with you. It's not that I want to use you for a free trip to London. It's none of that. I'm coming to London because I want to see you, right? I want to see you. And I think he needs to give you that same vim, that same energy, especially as a man. And the reason why I said it's a bit of a double standard, because if he turned around and said he wanted to pay for your flight to come visit him, I'd be like, girl, take that flight, right? But I do think as a man that, yeah, he should cover his own costs and he should show you that he is being intentional, because generally I just think, especially from the jump, women pour so much more into relationships, I personally think anyway, especially emotionally. And I think it's nice to see that a man is being serious about us. And I query why he had made decisions to come in the past and they fell through. I would love to know the reasoning for that, because that kind of raised an eyebrow for me. Like, what was the reason? Is it that finances was an issue every single time? Is it that he had issues with work or annual leave? Because I think that if he's planned to come, like, it would have been nice if he followed through each of those times and not that those things fell apart. And if it is financial, then the question I have for you is, are you then happy being the person who potentially takes on the majority of the financial obligation in this long distance relationship? Because like I said earlier on, long distance relationships are financially draining. And one thing that I was quite lucky with is that Taiwo and our income is not that different, right? And I was able to take care of myself in a certain way. He was able to take care of himself in a certain way. Sometimes he'll take care of me. Sometimes I will book activities for us. Like, we each like poured in a quite equal amount, I would say, to be honest. Are you comfortable with it being a relationship where you pour in more financially? You have to ask yourself that. For some women, it's not an issue, right? For some women, it's not an issue, especially if you earn significantly more than him. But for other women, it might be an issue and it might creep up continuously in your relationship. And I think one of the biggest things that break up long distance relationships, outside of the distance, the emotional distance, the physical distance, and not having your person there, is the financial strain. So you have to ask yourself whether you are willing to bear the financial brunt of carrying this relationship and moving it forward. But yeah, I'm with you. He should book his own flight. He should book his own accommodation. And if you don't want to stay with him, you do not have to. Dilemma number 2, please, Producer Annisha.
So this one says, hi, Toni. Congratulations on your successful bachelorette trip. I hope you guys had an amazing time and thank you for sharing that with us. I have a dilemma. I'm a 23-year-old Nigerian in a talking stage with a 29-year-old German.
Oh, okay.
Although we have a bit of cultural differences, we seem to get along just fine most of the time, except that I think he seems to be a bit insecure. We met in Feb, and along the line, when I saw the friendship turning into something more, I decided to cut off people I was talking to so that I could channel all my energy into our relationship. He asked if I was talking to anyone before him, and I responded no because I didn't think it mattered at the time. And after so much pressure from him to speak up, I finally opened up and then told him I'm no longer speaking to them since we started to get serious. It's now August, and I've been tagged a liar and someone he cannot trust. He makes me show him my text messages and goes through my gallery just so that he can make sure I'm not cheating.
Oh my God.
I haven't been asked out, and I feel like if he's not even able to trust me from now, there's no point dragging this out. He also has a problem with other men, even if we're just friends and they're complimenting me and I'm responding to their compliments. He says they just want to sleep with me. I asked him if he wants me to delete my socials, brackets, of course I won't. But I feel like...
I see my eyebrows. I was like, you asked him what?
I was hoping there was brackets. But I feel like he doesn't actually like me.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. So initially, I could see why he may have had his back against the wall. Is that the right phrase? But I could see why he may have been nervous in the beginning, because you obviously said you weren't talking to anyone else. Then you said, actually, no, I was.
Changed.
Yeah. I think for anybody, man, woman, long-term relationship, short-term relationship, that will make someone a bit nervous. Like, oh, wow, I wonder why he or she didn't just tell the truth. Like, should I be worried about that? So I understand why initially that might raise an amber flag. I think it's normal. My worry is that rather than him just have a grown-up conversation with you about it and maybe why you withheld it and what that means and just let it lie as a result of you having this in-depth, honest conversation, it has then fueled something in him that I think is quite unhealthy, which is having this like passionate, strong distrust, even when there is no evidence to suggest that he shouldn't trust you. And I do think that it is insecurity fueled, because the examples you gave, like, yeah, that's a man who maybe believes he's not good enough. Maybe he believes you're looking for something else. Maybe he believes there is something else. And I think that is a problem in a relationship, especially the early days of the relationship, right? When everything should be light, you should be getting to know each other, it should be fun, you know? And you're freaking asking me to read my texts and go through my pictures and talking about my social media. Like, that is wild to me. I think that you're seeing this in the right way. If it's like this early on, I do think it's indicative of an issue that will only grow later down the line. And if that's something you don't want to deal with, then I do think that no woman, man should deal with that level of distrust. You need to let him know that this is not going to fly. And I think it's a sign for problems in the future, if I'm going to be completely honest. So you have to ask yourself, look, what do I want out of this relationship? If I really like this guy, okay, have a conversation with him and say, look, this is too much. I cannot handle this. You have a strong level of distrust. You have trust issues, and I can't be in a relationship like this. And I understand why you were upset in the beginning, but I didn't lie because I was being deceitful. I just didn't mention it because at the time I didn't think it mattered. I was just getting to know you, and I'd cut them off, right? And if he can't handle that, then you're going to have to ask yourself if you want that kind of relationship long term, because it's going to be stressful. It's going to be a pain. And things like this start with little jabs here, little comments here, and then they turn into a full-fledged controlling relationships, where he is telling you to delete this. He is telling you not to wear this. He is telling you who you can see and who you can't see. And then before you know it, you're in the definition of an emotionally abusive relationship. And you don't want it to become that. You don't want it to grow into that. So you have to nip that in the bud now, whether it's leaving or whether it's confronting him and having a conversation. It's entirely down to you. It's your decision to make. But I do think that this is a very bad sign. I do. He gotta get right or get left. I really hope this advice helped. If you have a dilemma that you would love to submit to Toni Told Me, make sure you send us an email or hit us via DM. Toni@ToniToldMePod.com is the email address, or you can find us via Instagram @ToniToldMePod. Next up, we have the Sisterhood Spotlight, where I will be talking about my new book. As you guys know, I have been working on my new book for a while. It's been, God, in the works for well over a year now. And the book is called No Fucks Given, The Zero Accountability Guide to Getting Over a Boy. And it's basically a heartbreak helper. What inspired the book? I want to share that with you. So I have been in various relationships, and obviously they didn't last because I'm going to get married to someone different. And the breakdown of those relationships inevitably led to heartbreaks in different ways. Not all of them involved heartbreak, which I share in the book. One of my first relationships when I was 16 to 18, I actually was the heartbreaker. I was the heartbreaker. And I went about it in the wrong way. And I felt like, I mentioned this in the book, I kind of felt like my karma for going about it in the wrong way. I didn't cheat, but let's just say I went to university, got distracted, and I was like, YOLO, there's plenty fish in the sea. And I kind of text my boyfriend at the time, like, this isn't working. It was 2 weeks into university as well, which is violent. I was like, yeah, this isn't going to work. Ciao, kind of thing, right? Not verbatim, but yeah. So broke his heart. And then I got in a relationship in university. And when I say that was the most toxic relationship of my life. And I share things in this book that went on in that relationship. I dealt with everything from what was domestic violence. I didn't realize it was domestic violence at the time because they didn't hit me, but domestic violence. I dealt with cheating. I dealt with pathological lying. I dealt with everything. It gave me the wisdom and the strength that I have today to be the person I am and to give you the advice that I give. But at the time, it was not fun and it was a really difficult relationship. And yeah, my heart was broken when you get cheated on, especially at the age of like, what was I, 19, 20? My heart was broken. I was experiencing like bodily changes. I was experiencing anxiety. I was in a state of like perpetual low mood. It was awful. But I bounced back. And in bouncing back, I learned so many different things that I've put in this book. After that relationship, I was in another one for 6.5 years on and off. And at the time, I thought that was going to be my person. I really did. We were both Nigerian. We had met each other's families. We had lots in common, but it didn't work. And it didn't work because I had a lot of growing. However, because this is the book about zero accountability, I'm not going to talk about me. The big reason why it didn't work is because I was an anxious in a relationship with an avoidant. And I think that being with someone who avoids commitment is not easy. And it was a 6.5 year on and off relationship because we'd always break up and make up, break up and make up. And I used to do most of the breaking up, to be honest, because I just wasn't happy, but it still led to like intense heartbreak when that finally ended. And I think a big part of the reason is because in my mind, that was my person. I kind of put all my eggs in one basket and I had to start all over again. And I was starting all over again in my late 20s. And I felt like my whole 20s basically went to this guy and that was it. I was left with nothing. And that's what it felt at the time, even though that wasn't the case. And yeah, I've had various relationships and each one taught me a different lesson. But each relationship also helped me learn how to manage heartbreak because I've not always been the best at it. Like I said, the relationship I had in university, I remember coming out in spots. Like I have vitiligo. A lot of people don't know this, but I have vitiligo and most of it is on my leg. You can probably see it here on this video, like here. And when I went through that breakup, it spread on different parts of my body that it's never been on before, like on my neck, on my back, on my thigh, because I just wasn't handling the breakup well. And I think my biggest issue at the time was not facing my emotions head on. I was sad. I was angry. I was resentful. I was everything under the sun, but I was in denial about being upset. I didn't want to emphasize the fact that a man could have that kind of impact on me. Eldest daughter, I'm strong. That's the stereotype. I didn't want to seem weak. And I completely brushed all my emotions under the carpet. And you know what happened? They bubbled to the surface and they really, really toyed with me. And that is partially why this book is written the way it's written. So I go through various emotions in No Fucks Given: anger, sadness, hope, nostalgia, everything that you feel on that journey towards healing, I cover it. I cover it in this book. So basically that's how the book came about. One thing that surprised me about the writing process was how much I was willing to share. If you've read my first book and my second book, like I share a little bit about me, but I don't go into too much detail. In this book, child, I went into so much detail that my editor had to get legal involved to double check that I can't get sued for sharing details about people. Like I had to change people's names. I couldn't share like locations of where people live. Like even though people know that it happened to me in university or this happened to me at this age and whatever, like I had to be mindful of the fact that I'm talking about real people that I have been in relationships with. So that was interesting. I shared a lot. I didn't hold back. Like I shared a lot. Even the fact that when I was cheated on for the first time, I swore at that age I would never take anyone back after cheating. And I shocked myself and I took him back. I took him back. And what did he do? Cheat again. Taught me a very good lesson. Definitely don't take people back. Definitely don't take people back. But those are the kind of things I talk about in the book, like the mistakes that I'm not even going to say mistakes because this is a book built on zero accountability because I think for the most part, us as women, when we go through heartbreak or someone has been a fuckboy to us and been a douchebag to us, we do a lot of self-blaming. We do a lot of reflecting. How could I have been different? Maybe if I just saw the signs, maybe if I just did this, maybe if I did that. And we beat ourselves up over someone else's inability to love us properly. And for that reason, it's zero accountability. It's zero accountability because for once, I want women to acknowledge the fact that, yeah, you're angry and you're allowed to be angry if someone broke your heart. You're sad. And you're allowed to be sad if someone broke your heart. Maybe you're ashamed and you're allowed to feel shame and point it in the direction of the perpetrator, the person who broke your heart. So yeah, this book is big on healing unapologetically. It's the book you give to your friends when they can't get over a guy and you're just like, you know what, fuck this. Here you are, read this book. Read this book, stand up, read this book. This is the book for you. I want to talk about the book in more detail, but first I think I need to read an excerpt from it to give you an indication of what you can expect. Before I get into the excerpt, so you're not going to be able to see if you're listening to this via audio, but if you're on YouTube, this isn't the final cover. This is like a makeshift mock cover because it's still in print and the warehouse isn't done. So this is actually, I wish I knew this earlier. So if you have my first book, you would recognize, I wish I knew this earlier, right? But this is what the cover is going to look like for No Fucks Given. So for those listening, it is bright red. It's got fucks right in the middle. But because we want people to place it in their windows in the bookshops, the U is replaced with a broken heart. The U is replaced with a broken heart. And a fun fact about this cover, Tara created it. Yeah, so my publishers had sent me various covers and I saw all of them and I was like, you know what? Not bad, but it's not giving what I want it to give. I want it to be a bit louder. I want it to be a bit bolder. And my little sister, Tara, she was on the episode 2 weeks ago. Yeah, you would have listened to it 2 weeks ago. She actually put this draft together. I loved it. We sent it to my publishers and they were like, oh my God, we really like this. So when the official cover comes out, it's going to be embossed. So it's going to be really nice and cool on the front. But yeah, I'm so proud of the fact that my sister put this together. She's been so supportive. And it's a really nice like nod to the content of the book because I've talked to my sister about heartbreak probably more than I've talked to anyone. Like her and my best friend are two people that I have talked to significantly about heartbreak. And this book is actually dedicated to them. My sister knows this book is dedicated to her, but my best friend doesn't know. So she's going to find out and I know she'll cry. I know she will cry. So the excerpt that I've decided to read, actually, you know what? Producer Annisha picked this one out. I asked her, which chapter should I read? And she said, Hope. So I do have a chapter called Hope, and that's the one I'm going to read. And it's quite nice because I think this is like probably one of the more positive, warming chapters of the book, unlike anger and sadness. So here goes. Hope. Oh, I'm going to do it, by the way, guys. I have a reading voice that I record my audiobooks in. So if my voice changes, that's why I'm doing my reading voice, okay? Don't laugh. Hope. Nostalgia encourages us to review the past, but eventually we have to start considering the future. And that's when hope comes into play. There's a type of hope you need. It's the type of hope you have for yourself about your own life beyond a romantic partner. I think it's fair to assume that you're currently in a place where you may have lost a little hope when it comes to love. This is normal. Heartbreak can have you doubting all types of things, including yourself, your future, and whether decent men even exist. Admittedly, there are plenty terrible men in this world, but one thing I want you to know is that good men do certainly exist, and your ex is not at the top of the hierarchy. In the aftermath of a breakup, it's easy to internalize rejection, but I want you to cling on to hope when it comes to your own outcomes. Because it's that hope that will have you daydreaming again, living again, and looking forward to what's ahead. In being hopeful, you can remind yourself that you are not defined by your breakup and that you won't feel sad forever. Hope can be such an asset in our healing journey because in being hopeful, we are reminded that pain isn't permanent. Hope encourages us to cling on to the reality that there will be happier days ahead, and it gives us a reason to keep going even when our heart feels heavy. Hope is also important for helping us rebuild our self-worth because it shifts our focus from the breakup we experienced to the possibilities ahead of us. And in being excited about future possibilities, hope encourages us to invest in ourselves again. It opens the door to new beginnings. After Mr. Dismissive Avoidant and I broke up, I remained hopeful about the future because my prior breakup showed me things get better. While my relationship with Mr. Dismissive Avoidant wasn't perfect, it was certainly less turbulent and less hurtful than my relationship with Mr. What Was I Thinking? And I was hopeful that there was even better out there for me. Life showed me that I was right. I went from a terrible relationship in university to a mediocre relationship in my mid-20s to a good relationship at 31 and a great relationship at 33. I'm now 36 and about to marry the man I had the great relationship with. Every relationship got better and I maintain a positive perspective despite previous relationships not working out. Each breakup I experienced also birthed an opportunity for me to pour into myself. In losing him, I gained my time to be selfish, which fed my hopefulness. Breakups don't just mark an ending. They create space for things you forgot you wanted and eventually for someone who chooses you and loves you in the way you deserve. I'm stopping there because when I say this is long, hope is long. It's a long, long ass chapter, right? And we could be here all day. Like literally, I'm telling girls like what I wished for in a partner. I talk about writing lists. I talk about the kind of lists that are helpful to you, unhelpful to you. So it's very, very long. I'm not going to go into it in more detail. But that is just a snippet. And like I said, hope is towards the end of the book. It comes before acceptance. And hope is really positive. It's really warming. And I wrote the book in that way because I think that often we see breakups negatively and we can easily sit in that dwelling, in that negativity. But there's also a silver lining to breakups that people often don't discuss. It is that newfound freedom, that opportunity to be selfish, the opportunity to remind yourself that there are other people out there, other positive relationships out there, that it doesn't have to feel or look bleak and that the future is very much yours. When you overthink, especially in the aftermath of a breakup, I think it's so easy, and I've done this a million times, to overthink the bad. We always overthink the bad. What if I don't meet someone? What if I'm alone forever? What if I never get married? What if I never have kids? What if the next guy isn't as good as my ex? You need to be hopeful. You need to overthink the good. Like, what if you meet the most amazing person? What if you have the most amazing relationship? What if in being single, you accomplish the most amazing things and you go for a period of like transformation from being single? You need to be hopeful about your future. And I think that is one of the last parts of healing and healing effectively. Acknowledging that you went through this awful breakup and this awful thing happened to you, but also acknowledging that there is endless opportunity out there and things can and will get better as long as you're open to that. Writing No Fucks Given was an interesting process for me because I had to take myself back to the brokenhearted version of me. Imagine writing a book about heartbreak, breakups, fuckboys as you're planning a wedding. Like that was weird for me. Like I'm in the happiest relationship I've ever been in. I'm in one of the happiest years of my life, but I had to write this book about breakups. And in doing that, it was challenging because I had to pull all these like memories that I left behind out. I had to pull all these dark emotions out because I wanted the book to be relatable. And in making it relatable, I had to take myself back to heartbroken 29-year-old Toni, heartbroken 22-year-old Toni. And that was a little bit challenging. And then also, it was weird as well writing about like relationship and exes, considering that I'm like so far removed from those relationships because I haven't been in some of those relationships for like over 10 years now. So that was tough as well, like going back to those memories and writing about that. But I had to give you guys the tools. And also, I think there's like a layer of my book which just emphasizes this zero accountability element and just being unapologetic about how you feel. I think often as women, we are told to manage relationships with grace. Don't be too angry. Don't share too much of your business. Move in quite like a stoic way. But the reality is breakups can hurt. They can really F with us, right? And I didn't want to shy away from speaking my truth and talking about my experiences because I'm like too scared about what people will say, too scared about people gossiping, too scared about people talking about my past. But I think that's a big part of healing and proving to yourself that you've healed. Like when I wrote it, it was like, okay, I can write this because I'm in a great place. I've moved on from that. It happened. I can talk about it. And I hope that in me sharing my experiences, you guys can see that you're not alone. Everybody goes through heartbreak. And I think that's what makes it such like a discussed topic. Everyone's heart is broken at some point in their life as long as they have loved. It's not always by a partner either. Sometimes you can have heartbreak at the hands of your friends, but we all experience heartbreak to a certain degree. And there aren't many books out there that give you kind of like a guide on how to manage it and how to deal with it. And I was looking around and I was like, okay, there are a few books here and there, but I want something in the style of like my writing, in the style of my reading as well. One thing people always say to me about my old books is that they love the fact they're like concise and straight to the point. And that's me. I like efficiency. I like talking straight to the point, being direct. And this book is very much that. One thing about breakups that people don't often talk about is how it can feel like grief, like the grief associated with losing someone and bereavement. I mean, there's no comparison as far as like the permanence of it, but you still feel an element of loss. And I think it's no coincidence that the 5 stages of grief, whether it's like anger, depression, denial, whatever it is, those are all feelings that you feel when you go through heartbreak. Heartbreak can have such a detrimental impact on people. Their ability to consume food and water, their ability to sleep, their health. When people experience heartbreak, it's not uncommon for symptoms to include things like losing hair or getting a twitch in the eye, having heart palpitations, gaining or losing weight. And part of the reason is because when your body spikes in cortisol is a stress hormone. It manifests in so many different ways. And that spike in cortisol is a result of us being heartbroken. It's a result of us being stressed from the loss, from the grief, from the pain, from mourning a future that we are no longer going to have that we once envisioned. And that is why heartbreak impacts people in different ways, but also impacts people so intensely. And unfortunately, people are often quick to shrug off heartbreak as if it's like, oh, she's going to get over it. It's just, she's gone for a breakup. Like, oh, it is what it is. But the impact needs to be discussed more. So many of you, in fact, my followers are constantly sending DMs or sending dilemmas to the inbox that center around heartbreak. And it's not just true for women, men experience heartbreak too. In fact, one thing I said in my book, and I was talking to my best friend about this just the other day, because she's going through something which is kind of like in line with what I talked about. I think as women, we often assume that women deal with more intense emotions after heartbreak. Now, what is interesting is that Men experience higher rates of loneliness after heartbreak, but women experience more immediate rates of loneliness. So, what I mean by that is that men typically experience late onset loneliness, i.e., you go for a breakup and he seems to be doing just fine. You're the one crying to your friends, you're the one shedding tears, and he's living life like whatever, no man's business. So you feel immediately lonely. But in feeling immediately lonely, you are tackling your emotions head on, at least that's what you should be doing. You are tackling your emotions head on. And in tackling them head on, you actually recover from the breakup more quickly, right? Whereas studies have shown men experience late onset loneliness in that they don't tackle their emotions head on. Many of them are either in denial or many of them attempt to rebound, and everything is dandy from the outside looking in. But eventually, weeks later or even months later, the reality of dismissing how he truly feels hits him. And then the loneliness feels even more significant. So I do think it's important, and that's a big part of the reason why I wrote this book, for people to acknowledge the reality of breakups. They're difficult, they're painful. No one wants to experience them, but we have to be honest with ourselves when we are struggling. So if you're listening to this and you're like, okay, I need this book in my life. I listened to the hope excerpt. I want to hear the anger one. I want to hear the sadness one. I want to hear the nostalgia one, the shame one. I want to hear it all. Then please, please, please do pre-order it. If you click the link in my bio on TikTok or on Instagram, you can pre-order it from there. You can also pre-order it from Waterstones directly, Amazon directly, wherever you buy books from. So just look up No Fucks Given, Toni Tone, and it will pop up. And I would love to know when it is finally out on the 25th. So if you pre-order it, you'll be one of the first people to receive it. When it is finally out on the 25th, I would love to know what you guys think. Please share it with us on the podcast page. Feel free to use the hashtag so we can track it. We're really, really curious. As always, I end with positive words every episode. So my positive words for today are going to circle around heartbreak. I don't want you to feel weak for struggling with breakups. Like I said earlier on in the pod, breakups have such a significant impact on our physical and mental well-being. You are not weak for acknowledging that someone hurt you. You're not weak for acknowledging that you are upset, that you are struggling, that you miss them. Do you know one of the worst things about breakups? Someone can do you so dirty, and I share this in the book. Someone can do you so dirty, and you know they've done you dirty. You know they've crossed your boundary. You know they've disrespected you, but you still miss them. There is no switch you can turn on and off when someone hurts us. They may have stopped loving us, but even in our grief of losing them, we have not stopped loving. And I feel like there's like a cruelty in that experience, which makes like heartbreaks really difficult to navigate. We know that we deserve better, yet we can still miss people who hurt us. And yeah, I don't want you to feel guilty or ashamed if you're missing someone who hurt you, or if you're heartbroken by someone that you know doesn't deserve you. It is part of parcel of experiencing like heartbreak, of experiencing love, of experiencing pain. And I think there's a strength in being able to say, you know what, I'm hurt and I do love this person and I do care about this person, but I also know I deserve better. So there's a strength in that, and there's a courage and a beauty in that. And I think you shouldn't take that element of things for granted. That is it from me. Please don't forget to subscribe, share, like it on YouTube, comment, wherever you get your podcasts, and we will be back next week.